A successful black CEO is publicly humiliated at airport security, subjected to excessive scrutiny and racist assumptions. As TSA agents mock her protests and dismiss her dignity, they have no idea they're targeting one of the most influential executives in aviation oversight. When her true identity surfaces, the power dynamic shifts catastrophically, and the entire airport will witness what happens when prejudice meets accountability. The fluorescent lights at checkpoint B7 hummed with their usual oppressive buzz. Dr. Maya Winters placed her designer briefcase in the grey bin, her movements practiced and efficient. She'd done this 100 times. "Mum, step aside, please." Agent Derek's voice cut through the checkpoint murmur. His tone wasn't a request. Maya glanced up. The metal detector hadn't beeped. 3 passengers behind her, all white, all in business casual, were waving through without a second glance. She was the only one being stopped. "Is there a problem?" Maya kept her voice level, professional. "Random additional screening." Derek's smirk said it wasn't random at all. He gestured toward the secondary screening area with exaggerated patience, like she was slow to understand. Maya's jaw tightened. This was the 3rd time in 4 weeks. Same airport, same checkpoint, same random selection. 2 more agents materialized. Agent Collins, a woman with tired eyes and a harder expression, began pulling items from Maya's briefcase with unnecessary force. The laptop, the leather portfolio, the conference materials. "This yours?" Derek held up her MacBook Pro like he'd discovered contraband. "Yes." Maya's voice stayed calm, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. Other passengers slowed, staring. Some whispered. Maya stood, perfectly still in her tailored charcoal suit, her natural hair pulled back in a professional bun, her posture radiating controlled dignity. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who commanded boardrooms, but Agent Derek saw something else entirely. "Gonna need you to power this on," he said, though protocol didn't require it. His eyes traveled over her dismissively, landing on her Rolex. "That real?" The checkpoint fell silent. Even the TSA announcement loop seemed to pause. Maya met his gaze with steel in her own. "Are you profiling me, Agent Derek?" She read his name tag deliberately. His smirk widened. "Just doing my job, ma'am." But they both knew exactly what job he was really doing. 48 hours earlier, Maya sat in her downtown corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city skyline. Her assistant placed the morning briefing on the glass desk. 3 federal contracts up for renewal, 2 new clients in aviation security consulting, and the TSA regional conference schedule. "The Seattle keynote is Thursday at 4 p.m., her assistant reminded her. "They want you to focus on the new algorithmic bias protocols." Maya nodded, eyes scanning the brief. Skybridge Aviation Consulting, her company, built from nothing over 15 years, had become the premier firm advising airlines, airports, and federal agencies on security efficiency and civil rights compliance. She testified before Congress twice. Her protocols were used in 62 airports nationwide. She was 39 years old and the only black woman CEO in the aviation consulting space. That distinction had cost her everything to earn. On the credenza behind her desk sat a framed photograph. Her father in his baggage handler uniform, standing beside a 747 at this very airport 30 years ago. Marcus Winters had spent 3 decades loading luggage, enduring casual racism and systemic dismissal, so his daughter could attend MIT on scholarship. "Baby girl," he'd told her once, "the only way to change a broken system is to understand it better than the people running it." So Maya had learned. Engineering degree, MBA, policy fellowships. She'd studied every regulation, every protocol, every legal precedent in aviation security. Then she'd built a consulting empire on that knowledge. Her father had died 5 years ago, but his picture remained, a reminder of why she did this work. Maya picked up the Seattle conference materials. Her keynote topic, Implicit Bias in Security Screening, Data-Driven Solutions. Ironic, given what she'd experienced 3 times at checkpoint B7 in the past month. She'd filed quiet complaints each time. Nothing changed. "Book my usual Thursday morning flight," she told her assistant, "and have legal send me the updated TSA contract terms." She didn't know that in 48 hours, she'd be living the case study she was preparing to discuss. Thursday morning arrived cold and grey. Maya moved through the airport with efficient grace, her carry-on gliding behind her. She knew this terminal intimately, had consulted on its security redesign 2 years ago. Checkpoint B7 was moderately crowded. Business travelers mostly, everyone moving with the practiced rhythm of frequent flyers. Maya placed her items in bins, laptop, briefcase, shoes, blazer. Her TSA pre-check status should have meant the expedited lane. Should have. The metal detector stayed silent as she walked through. "No beep, no alarm, nothing, ma'am." Agent Derek appeared at her elbow like he'd been waiting. "Random additional screening." Maya turned. Behind her, a white man in jeans sailed through without a glance. Then a white woman with 3 bags. Then another white passenger. "I have pre-check," Maya said evenly. "Doesn't matter, random selection." Derek's hand gesture toward the secondary area was almost mocking in its exaggeration. Maya looked at his badge, memorizing the number. Then she walked to the designated area, her spine straight, her face carefully blank. Agent Collins joined them, already pulling on latex gloves. "Bag check," she announced unnecessarily loud. They emptied Maya's briefcase with theatrical slowness. Every document examined, every pen inspected, her laptop scrutinized like stolen property. "This yours?" Derek held up her conference badge, clearly printed with Dr. Maya Winters, CEO, Skybridge Aviation Consulting. "Yes. What kind of business you in?" His tone suggested disbelief. "Aviation Security Consulting." Maya's voice could have cut glass. Collins snorted quietly. "Security Consulting, right." Maya's conference materials were spread across the inspection table. Her keynote speech, her company portfolio, her TSA contract documentation. Everything that proved exactly who she was. Neither agent looked at any of it. "Gonna need to pat you down," Collins said, stepping closer. "On what grounds?" Maya kept her voice professional, but passengers were staring now, whispering. A woman with 2 children hurried past, pulling her kids closer. "Random selection," Derek repeated, his smirk never faltering. "Something you want to tell us, ma'am?" The implication hung in the air, toxic and deliberate. Maya stood perfectly still as Collins patted down her blazer, her slacks, her blouse. Professional humiliation performed in public. Her face revealed nothing, but her hands curled into fists at her sides. "You always this defensive?" Derek asked, enjoying himself now. "I'm not being defensive. I'm questioning your justification for this search. Are you questioning how we do our job? I'm questioning why I'm selected for additional screening every time I come through this checkpoint." Silence. Then Derek leaned closer, voice dropping. "Maybe you should fly through a different airport then." Something cold and lethal flickered across Maya's face. She reached into the pile of her belongings and held up her conference badge, turning it so the light caught the lettering. "I'm Dr. Maya Winters, CEO of Skybridge Aviation Consulting. I'm speaking at the TSA Regional Security Conference in 4 hours about anti-discrimination protocols in airport screening." Derek glanced at the badge. His smirk faltered slightly. Collins looked uncertain, but the damage was done. The crowd had watched. The whispers had spread, and neither agent was backing down in front of witnesses. "Anyone can print a badge," Derek muttered, though his confidence had cracked. "You're free to go." He shoved her belongings back across the table without apology. without acknowledgement, without a trace of remorse. Maya repacked slowly, deliberately, making eye contact with every passenger who stared. Let them remember this. Let them wonder. She walked toward her gate with her head high, her briefcase in hand, her dignity intact by sheer force of will. But inside something had shifted. This wasn't just about her anymore. Maya sat at gate C14 staring at nothing. Around her, travelers typed on laptops, sipped coffee, scrolled through phones. Normal life. Normal Thursday. She felt like she'd been stripped naked in public. Her hands rested in her lap, steady only because she willed them to be. Inside, rage and humiliation battled for dominance. Rage that they'd done it again. Humiliation that others had watched, judged, assumed. This was supposed to be different. She'd built her career specifically to fix systems like this. She'd written the protocols these agents were supposed to follow. She'd testified about implicit bias, trained security personnel, consulted with federal agencies, and none of it mattered when she stood on the wrong side of the checkpoint. Maya thought about her father, loading luggage while passengers spoke over him like he was invisible. He'd endured it with quiet grace, never complaining, always telling her, "Baby girl, dignity is what you keep when they try to take everything else." But what did dignity mean when the system itself was designed to strip it away? Her phone buzzed. Her assistant, media asking about an airport incident video. Maya's stomach dropped. Someone had recorded it. Of course someone had recorded it. She opened Twitter. The video was already there, view count climbing. Black CEO humiliated at TSA checkpoint. Comments flooded in, outraged, supportive, demanding justice. Some blamed her for making it about race. Others shared their own stories. The algorithm did what algorithms do. Amplified, polarized, reduced her experience to engagement metrics. Maya closed the app. She didn't want to be a viral moment. She wanted to be a consultant flying to a conference. But Agent Derek's smirk haunted her. Agent Collins's dismissive snort. The way they'd handled her belongings like evidence. The casual cruelty of anyone can print a badge. A gate announcement crackled overhead. Her flight was boarding. Maya stood, straightening her blazer. In 4 hours, she'd be standing in front of the people who oversaw checkpoint B7. The people whose policies had failed to prevent what just happened. She'd spent 15 years building credibility, so she'd be heard. Now she had to decide whether to use it. Her father's photo flashed in her mind, his steady gaze, his quiet strength. Dignity is what you keep. But sometimes, she thought, dignity is also what you fight for. Maya was 12 when she first understood the weight of invisible burdens. Her father came home from the airport with slumped shoulders and weary eyes, and she knew something had happened. "Tell me," she'd insisted, the way children do when they sense their parents' pain. Marcus Winters had smiled sadly. "Just a long day, baby girl." But she'd overheard him talking to her mother later. A passenger had accused him of stealing. Airport security had searched him in front of his co-workers. They'd found nothing, because there was nothing to find. No apology followed. It wasn't the first time. It wouldn't be the last. Her father never filed complaints, never made scenes. He showed up to work the next day and the day after that, loading luggage with the same careful precision he always had. "Why don't you say something?" 12-year-old Maya had asked. "Because the system isn't built for people like us to say something," her father had replied gently. "But you're gonna be different. You're gonna understand the system so well they can't ignore you." He'd started bringing home books then. Aviation regulations, civil rights law, engineering textbooks. He'd work overtime to buy them, piling them on her desk like treasure maps to a better future. Maya had devoured them. MIT scholarship at 17, engineering degree by 21, MBA from Stanford at 23. She'd studied every regulation, every protocol, every legal framework in aviation security. She'd built Skybridge Aviation from a one-woman consulting operation to a multi-million-dollar firm. She'd advised airlines, airports, federal agencies. She'd written the anti-discrimination training modules used across the country. She'd done everything her father told her to do, understand the system better than the people running it. And this morning, 2 TSA agents had treated her exactly like they'd treated her father 30 years ago. With suspicion, with dismissal, with casual systemic cruelty wrapped in procedure. The system hadn't changed. She'd just earned enough credentials to see how broken it still was. Her father had died before seeing her testify before Congress, before seeing her firm land its first TSA contract, before seeing her become the person he'd always believed she could be. But he'd given her something more valuable than life advice. He'd given her purpose. As Maya's plane climbed toward Seattle, she pulled out her laptop. Her keynote speech glowed on the screen, polished, professional, carefully calibrated not to offend. She thought about Checkpoint B7, about Derek's smirk, about Collins's dismissive snort, about the passengers who watched and whispered, about the travelers who'd come after her, who didn't have her credentials or platform. Her father's voice echoed, "You're going to be different." Maya opened a new document and began to write. Not the speech they expected, the speech they needed to hear. The hotel room in Seattle had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Maya stood at the glass, conference materials spread across the desk behind her. She had 2 hours before her keynote. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing since landing. Media requests, legal team check-ins, board members asking if she wanted to address the situation. The video had gone viral, over 2 million views now. But Maya wasn't looking at her phone. She was looking at the wall of her hotel room, where she'd taped something she'd printed in the business center, the TSA Checkpoint B7 protocol poster, the one that hung right behind where Derek had searched her. She'd written those guidelines 3 years ago as part of a federal contract. Her firm's logo was in the footer, small but present. The document explicitly outlined random selection criteria designed to prevent racial profiling. It included mandatory implicit bias checkpoints. It specified documentation requirements for additional screening. Derek and Collins had violated every single guideline, and they'd done it standing directly beneath the poster bearing her company's name. Maya studied the document like a detective examining evidence. This wasn't just about one bad encounter. This was about systemic failure at multiple levels. Either these agents had never been properly trained on protocols her firm designed, or they'd been trained and chose to ignore them. Both possibilities were damning. Her keynote was scheduled for 4 p.m. in the Grand Ballroom. The audience would include regional TSA directors, security administrators, policy advisors, and airport authority leadership. The people who'd hired her firm, the people who'd implemented her protocols. The people responsible for Checkpoint B7. Maya pulled up her original keynote. 40 slides about algorithmic bias, data trends, policy recommendations, diplomatic language, bureaucratic distance, the kind of presentation that wouldn't ruffle feathers or cost contracts. She deleted it. Then she opened the viral video and watched it again. Really watched it. The way Derek's hand lingered mockingly when he gestured. The theatrical slowness of Collins's search. The dismissive glance at her credentials. The casual cruelty of anyone can print a badge. 37 seconds of footage that captured 15 years of microaggressions, systemic doubt, and institutional racism wrapped in the language of procedure. This was the case study she'd been searching for. Not abstract data in a PowerPoint. Lived experience. Her experience. Maya began building a new presentation. She included screenshots from the video, quotes from the exchange, side-by-side comparisons with the protocols she'd written, documentation of her 3 previous random selections at the same checkpoint. Her assistant called. "The regional director wants to meet with you privately before the keynote. He saw the video. He wants to—" "Tell him I'll see him at 4 p.m., Maya interrupted. "With everyone else." "Maya, he's trying to get ahead of this. I know exactly what he's trying to do." The answer is no. She hung up and returned to her presentation. Her hands moved with surgical precision, building an argument so airtight it couldn't be dismissed or deflected. One slide caught her attention, the photo of Checkpoint B7's protocol poster, with her firm's logo visible. She zoomed in until the text was crystal clear. They'd humiliated her standing beneath guidelines she'd written to prevent exactly that humiliation. The irony was almost poetic. The evidence was undeniable. Maya glanced at the clock. 90 minutes until her keynote. She saved the presentation, backed it up to 3 different drives, and forwarded it to her legal team with a simple note. FYI. Then she pulled out the blazer they'd searched that morning, the same one she'd wear on stage. Let them see it. Let them remember. Her phone buzzed one more time, a text from a number she didn't recognize. "Thank you for speaking up. This happened to me last month." No one believed me. Maya stared at the message. Then another came, and another. Travelers sharing their stories. People who didn't have her credentials or platform. People the system had chewed up and spit out without witnesses or viral videos. This wasn't just about her anymore. It had never been just about her. She picked up her father's photo from her carry-on, placing it on the hotel desk. His steady gaze seemed to say, "Now show them what you're made of." Maya checked her reflection in the mirror, straightened her blazer, took a breath. In 90 minutes she'd walk into that ballroom, and the entire TSA regional leadership would hear exactly what happened when their system failed someone who knew it better than they did. The grand ballroom hummed with pre-presentation chatter. Maya stood backstage watching through a gap in the curtains. 200 people filled the space. TSA administrators in suits, security directors comparing notes, policy advisors scrolling through tablets, and in the back corner, trying to look invisible, sat Agent Derrick and Agent Collins. Maya's pulse quickened. Their supervisor must have summoned them. They sat stiffly, faces pale, clearly aware they were sitting in a room with the woman they'd humiliated 6 hours ago. The regional director, Thomas Brennan, approached backstage. 50s, grey hair, practiced smile. "Dr. Winters, I'm so glad you're here despite this morning's incident." Incident. Maya tasted the word. Interesting choice of terminology. Brennan's smile tightened. "I want you to know we're taking this very seriously. Internal review is already underway. I've personally spoken with the agents involved." "Have you watched the video?" Maya interrupted. "I have, and I want to assure you, then you saw them dismiss my credentials, question my profession, conduct, an unjustified search, while 7 white passengers walked through without a glance." Brennan shifted. "Protocol allows for random additional screening." "I wrote the protocol, Mr. Brennan. Your agency paid my firm $200,000 for those guidelines. I know exactly what they allow." Silence. Brennan's practiced smile faltered. "Dr. Winters, I understand you're upset, but perhaps today isn't the best time for your keynote. Given the emotional circumstances, maybe we should reschedule." "No." Maya's voice cut like steel. "I'll be speaking at 4 p.m. as scheduled. I'm trying to help you here. Are you? Or are you trying to help your agency avoid accountability in front of 200 witnesses?" Brennan's face hardened. "That's unfair. What's unfair is being searched 3 times in 4 weeks at the same checkpoint, while my white colleagues sail through. What's unfair is having my credentials dismissed as fake. What's unfair is standing in front of people who hired my expertise while defending why I deserve basic dignity." The conference organizer appeared. 5 minutes, Dr. Winters." Brennan tried once more. "If you address this morning's incident in your presentation, I hope you'll be balanced." We're all on the same team here. Maya met his gaze. Mr. Brennan, with respect, we are not on the same team. I'm on the side of every traveler who's been profiled, searched, and humiliated under the guise of security. You're on the side of the institution that allows it to continue. She walked past him toward the stage entrance. Behind her, Brennan called. Out? Your firm's contracts are up for renewal in 3 months. Maya stopped, turned slowly. Is that a threat? It's a reminder that relationships matter in this business. For a moment, something flickered across Maya's face. Not fear, but calculation. She'd spent 15 years building her firm. Federal contracts were her bread and butter. One controversial keynote could cost her millions. 2 minutes, the organizer announced. Maya looked at the stage, then back at Brennan. I'll take my chances. She stepped into position as the lights dimmed. The crowd settled. The organizer began her introduction. Please welcome Dr. Maya Winters, CEO of Skybridge Aviation Consulting. Applause filled the ballroom. Maya walked onto the stage, the same blazer they'd searched that morning catching the spotlight. In the back corner, Derek and Collins sat frozen. The projector illuminated her first slide. Not her original title, her new one, Case Study Gusher 74, When the System Fails Someone Who Built It. The room went completely silent. Maya stood at the podium, her hands resting on either side of the laptop. 200 faces stared back, some curious, some uncomfortable. Some, like Thomas Brennan in the front row, already looked like they regretted not cancelling her appearance. Good afternoon, Maya began, her voice carrying effortlessly through the room. I'm Dr. Maya Winters. Some of you know me as the CEO of Skybridge Aviation Consulting. Some of you, as of 6 hours ago, know me as the woman in the viral video. A ripple of recognition moved through the crowd. Heads turned. Whispers started. Maya clicked to her next slide, her company logo. My firm has held federal contracts with the TSA for 8 years. We've written compliance manuals, designed anti-discrimination training modules, and created the random screening protocols currently in use at 62 airports nationwide. She let that sink in. Then clicked again. The Checkpoint B7 protocol. Poster appeared on screen, her firm's logo circled in red. The same poster that hung behind where she'd been searched. This morning at Checkpoint B7 in this airport, I was selected for additional screening, 3rd time in 4 weeks. I watched 7 passengers, all white, pass through without a glance. The silence in the room had weight now, physical presence. Maya's voice stayed level, surgical. When I identified myself and presented my credentials, including my conference badge clearly stating my position, I was told anyone can print a badge. My laptop, my briefcase, my professional identity, all questioned, all dismissed. She paused. Let the words settle. Not because of security concerns, because 2 agents couldn't imagine that a black woman in a suit might actually be who she claimed to be. Someone in the audience shifted uncomfortably. A chair creaked. The air conditioning hummed. Maya clicked to the next slide. The video began to play. No sound was needed. The footage spoke for itself. Derek's theatrical gestures, Collins's dismissive glance, the dumped belongings, Maya's rigid composure. The moment she held up her badge and watched it be dismissed, 37 seconds that felt like hours. When it ended, Maya spoke into the crushing silence. Agent Derek, Agent Collins. In the back corner, 2 figures stiffened. Please stand. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Derek and Collins rose. Every head in the ballroom turned. Thank you for being here, Maya said, her tone devoid of sarcasm or cruelty. Just fact. This isn't about ending your careers. It's about asking a question. She looked directly at Thomas Brennan in the front row. How many training modules did they complete? How many times did they read the protocols my firm designed specifically to prevent this? Brennan's face had gone pale. Maya's voice cut through the room. Because if they read them and still did this, then the training failed. And if they never read them, then the system failed. Either way, her laptop screen suddenly went black. Maya looked down. The projector connection had been severed. She glanced backstage where a technician stood, holding the disconnected cable, looking terrified. Behind him, Thomas Brennan stood with his phone to his ear, expression hard. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Someone had killed her presentation, mid-sentence, in front of 200 witnesses. Maya's hands curled around the edges of the podium. For a moment, rage and calculation warred on her face. Then she smiled, cold and lethal. "Interesting," she said into the microphone. "It appears someone doesn't want you to see the rest of my presentation." The murmurs grew louder. Several administrators looked at Brennan. He wouldn't meet their eyes. Maya pulled out her phone, held it up. "Fortunately, I have backups. Multiple backups. And as of 10 minutes ago, my legal team has copies. As does the media. As do 3 different civil rights organizations." Brennan stood abruptly. "Dr. Winters, You think I'll stop talking?" Maya's voice rang out. "You think cutting my presentation will make this go away?" She stepped away from the podium, addressing the room directly. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. When someone tries to speak truth to power, power pulls the plug. When someone demands accountability, institutions protect themselves." Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Her assistant. "Video of them cutting your presentation is already online. Trending in minutes." Maya looked back up at the room, at Brennan frozen in the front row, at Derek and Collins still standing, at 200 administrators who just witnessed their regional director silence a keynote speaker mid-sentence. "Here's what's going to happen," Maya said, her voice quiet but carrying. "I'm going to file a formal complaint. I'm going to request a full investigation. I'm going to ensure every single protocol violation is documented." She paused. "And then I'm going to wait and see if the system I've spent 15 years trying to fix has the courage to actually fix itself." The room sat in stunned silence. Maya gathered her laptop, her notes, her materials. She walked off the stage with her head high, leaving 200 people in a ballroom thick with tension and unspoken accusations. As she reached the exit, her phone exploded with notifications. The video of her presentation being cut had gone viral. Outrage trending nationwide, media requesting statements, lawyers offering pro bono representation, but there was one message that stopped her cold, from an unknown number. "Dr. Winters, this is Senator Patricia Morrison's office. The senator would like to speak with you about testifying before the Congressional Committee on Transportation Security tomorrow. Are you available?" Maya stood in the hotel corridor, ballroom chaos muffled behind closed doors. Everything she'd built, her firm, her contracts, her carefully constructed credibility, hung in the balance. Brennan's threat echoed. "Your contracts are up for renewal in 3 months. She could back down. Issue a measured statement. Let lawyers handle it quietly. Protect her business. Or she could do what her father taught her, understand the system better than the people running it, then force them to see what they've been ignoring." Maya's thumb hovered over the reply button. Behind her, the ballroom doors opened. Voices spilled out, arguments beginning. The carefully controlled facade of the TSA conference cracking in real time. Her phone buzzed again. Another message, another opportunity, another choice. Maya took a breath. Then she began to type. Maya sat in her hotel room as the sun set over Seattle, the city transforming into a grid of golden lights. Her phone lay face down on the desk, silenced after 3 hours of constant buzzing. Media requests. Legal consultations, board members with concerns, supporters demanding she sue immediately. She turned it all off. The noise, the outrage, the opinions. Now there was only silence and the weight of what came next. The senator's message glowed on her laptop screen, unanswered. Congressional testimony. National platform. The kind of opportunity activists dreamed about. The kind that could change everything, or destroy everything. Maya stood at the window, forehead pressed against the cool glass. Her reflection stared back, exhausted, uncertain, alone. She'd spent 15 years building Skybridge Aviation from nothing. Federal contracts were her lifeblood. Thomas Brennan wasn't bluffing about renewal. One phone call from him could blacklist her firm across the entire aviation security industry. She thought about her employees. 23 people whose mortgages and families depended on the business she'd built. If she pushed this, if she testified, if she made this a national scandal, what happened to them? The viral video had painted her as a hero. But heroes in viral videos didn't have to make payroll, didn't have to explain to their team why principle cost them their jobs. Her father's photograph sat on the nightstand, unpacked by habit. Marcus Winters in his baggage handler uniform, smiling despite decades of indignity. She picked it up, traced the frame's edge. "What would you do?" she whispered, but she knew the answer. Her father had endured silently so she could speak loudly. He'd accepted humiliation so she could demand dignity. He'd played by the system's rules so she could change them, except she hadn't changed them. Not really. This morning proved that. All her protocols, all her training modules, all her carefully worded policy recommendations, none of it stopped Agent Derek from smirking while he searched her. None of it prevented Agent Collins from dismissing her credentials. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed. And she'd spent 15 years polishing its edges instead of dismantling its foundation. Maya set down the photograph, opened her laptop, stared at the senator's message. Outside, the city hummed with life. People heading to dinner, catching flights, moving through airports where screening checkpoints treated them with dignity because of how they looked. Inside this hotel room, Maya faced the choice every marginalized person faces: protect what you've built or risk it all for what's right. Her phone buzzed once more despite being silenced. She flipped it over. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "I'm a black woman who flies for work. What happened to you happens to me every week. Thank you for not staying quiet." Then another. "My son is 15. He's terrified of airports. Your video helped him understand it's not his fault." Another. "I'm a TSA agent. What happened to you was wrong. Some of us are trying to change things from inside. Please don't give up." Maya's hands trembled. She set the phone down, pressed her palms against her eyes. Dignity is what you keep when they try to take everything else. But maybe, she thought, dignity is also what you give to everyone who can't fight back themselves. She opened her email and began typing a response to Senator Morrison's office. Maya woke at 5 a.m. to 43 new emails and a hotel room service card she didn't remember ordering. Her assistant had sent food with a note. "Eat. You'll need your strength." The world is watching. The world was indeed watching. Overnight, the video of her presentation being cut had reached 15 million views. Chaos Justice for Maya Winters was trending. News outlets were calling it the TSA accountability moment. 3 major civil rights organizations had issued statements demanding investigation, and Senator Morrison's office had confirmed. Congressional hearings scheduled for Monday. 3 days away. Maya opened her laptop and pulled up everything she'd need. Her original presentation, the viral video, documentation of her 3 previous random screenings at Checkpoint B7, her firm's TSA contracts with the protocols she'd written, emails showing she'd filed quiet complaints before. Then she did something she'd never done. She started reading the comments on the viral videos. Not the supportive ones, the hostile ones. She's playing the race card. Probably was acting suspicious. TSA agents were just doing their jobs. Why make everything about discrimination? Maya forced herself to read every ugly comment, every dismissal, every accusation. This was what she'd face in congressional testimony. This was the skepticism she'd have to overcome. Her phone rang. Thomas Brennan. She let it go to voicemail. It rang again. This time, her firm's lead attorney. She answered, "Maya, we need to talk about the contracts." "I know. Brennan's office sent a letter. They're reviewing the consulting relationship in light of recent events. It's legal speak for threatening cancellation." Maya was silent. "If we lose the TSA contracts, that's 40% of our revenue. We'd have to lay off people. Maybe close the firm." "I know. So what do you want to do?" Her attorney's voice softened. "I'll support whatever you decide. But you need to understand what you're risking." Maya looked at her father's photograph. "I want you to prepare a statement. I'm testifying before Congress on Monday, and I'm going to tell them everything." A long pause. "Okay, then let's make sure you're protected. I'm filing formal complaints with the Department of Transportation, the TSA Office of Civil Rights, and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. I'm documenting everything. If they retaliate, we'll have a paper trail. They're already retaliating. Then we'll make it expensive for them." After hanging up, Maya returned to her evidence. She needed more than emotion and viral videos. She needed data. She began pulling records from her firm's research, statistics on screening disparities, studies on implicit bias in security settings, comparative data from airports using her protocols versus those that weren't. She found something buried in a quarterly report from 6 months ago. Checkpoint B7 had received multiple complaints about discriminatory screening. Her firm had flagged it in their compliance review. They'd recommended mandatory retraining and supervisor oversight. The recommendation had been ignored. Maya's pulse quickened. She searched deeper, found emails between her firm and TSA Regional Administration. Her team had explicitly warned that Checkpoint B7 was a liability. They'd outlined specific concerns about Agent Derek's screening patterns. Nothing had been done. This wasn't just about one bad encounter. This was about systematic disregard for warnings, for data, for the very protocols they'd paid her firm to create. Thomas Brennan's office had known. They'd known Checkpoint B7 was a problem and done nothing. Maya began building a new presentation. Not about her personal experience, though that would be part of it. About institutional failure, about the gap between policy and practice, about what happens when organizations pay consultants to identify problems, then ignore every recommendation. Her phone buzzed. A message from someone in the ballroom yesterday. "I'm a TSA administrator who was at your keynote. What happened to you was wrong. I have documents showing similar complaints were buried. I'm willing to testify, anonymously for now, but I'm willing." Then another message from a different source. "I worked at Checkpoint B7 last year. I filed complaints about Derek's behavior. I was told to stop making trouble. I quit 3 months ago. I have emails." Maya stared at her screen. She wasn't alone. Other people had seen the problems, tried to fix them, been silenced. The system didn't fail by accident. It failed by design, by deliberate choices to prioritize comfort over accountability. She replied to Senator Morrison's office, "I'll testify. And I'm bringing witnesses." Outside, dawn broke over Seattle. Maya hadn't slept, but she felt clearer than she had in years. She'd spent 15 years trying to reform the system from inside, playing by rules designed to protect institutional power. Maybe it was time to stop playing by their rules. Monday morning. The congressional hearing room was smaller than Maya expected, but packed with observers. Senator Patricia Morrison sat at the center of the committee panel, flanked by 4 other senators. Camera crews lined the back wall. Journalists filled the press gallery. Maya sat at the witness table, a microphone in front of her, her father's photograph tucked in her briefcase for strength. Senator Morrison gavelled the room to order. "This hearing will examine allegations of discriminatory practices in TSA screening procedures. Dr. Maya Winters, CEO of Skybridge Aviation Consulting, will provide testimony." Dr. Winters, you may begin. Maya leaned forward. Her voice was steady. Thank you, Senator. On Thursday morning, I was subjected to what TSA calls random additional screening at checkpoint B7. It was the third time in 4 weeks. She clicked her remote. The viral video appeared on screens throughout the room. You'll notice several things in this footage. First, 7 passengers, all white, passed through without additional screening before and after me. Second, when I identify myself and present credentials, I'm told anyone can print a badge. Third, this occurs beneath a protocol poster, my firm designed specifically to prevent racial profiling. The video played in silence. Even with multiple viewings, it was devastating. But this isn't just about me, Maya continued. This is about systematic failure. She clicked to her next slide. The checkpoint B7 complaint data. 6 months ago, my firm submitted a compliance review, flagging checkpoint B7 for discriminatory screening patterns. We documented 17 complaints in 3 months. We recommended immediate retraining and supervisor oversight. Another click. Email correspondence appeared. Our recommendations were acknowledged by TSA Regional Administration, then ignored. No retraining occurred. No oversight was implemented. Agent Derek, who conducted my search, continued working checkpoint B7 without intervention. Senator Morrison leaned forward. Dr. Winters, you're saying TSA leadership was aware of problems at this checkpoint and took no action? Yes, Senator. I have documentation. A senator on the right interrupted. Dr. Winters, isn't it possible these were simply random screenings? That you're seeing discrimination where none exists? Maya met his gaze. Senator, I have a PhD in systems engineering and 15 years of data analysis experience. I understand statistics. When a black woman with pre-check status is selected for additional screening 3 times in 4 weeks, while white passengers pass through freely, that's not random. That's pattern. But you can't prove it was racially motivated. Senator, I watched Agent Derek question whether my laptop was mine, whether my Rolex was real, whether my credentials were legitimate. He didn't question the technology, the jewelry, or the credentials of white passengers. What else would you call that? Silence in the room. Maya clicked to another slide. I'm not the only one. I've collected testimony from 47 travelers who experienced similar treatment at TSA checkpoints nationwide. Black travelers are 3.5 times more likely to be selected for additional screening than white travelers, even controlling for all other variables. She looked directly at the camera. This isn't about one bad agent. It's about a system that allows bad agents to operate with impunity. That ignores warnings. That prioritizes institutional comfort over traveler dignity. Senator Morrison spoke. We have TSA Regional Director Thomas Brennan here to respond. Mr. Brennan? Brennan sat at a separate table, visibly uncomfortable. Senator, we take all complaints seriously. We've launched a full investigation. When did you launch that investigation? Maya interrupted. Dr. Winters, you're not when? Her voice cut through his deflection. Because my firm flagged checkpoint B7 6 months ago. Did you investigate then? Brennan shifted. We reviewed the concerns. Did you interview Agent Derek? Did you review his screening patterns? Did you implement any of our recommendations? The situation was complex. Yes or no, Mr. Brennan? A long pause. No. The room erupted in murmurs. Cameras flashed. Maya pressed forward. And after my keynote, when the video went viral, you threatened to cancel my firm's contracts. Correct? Brennan's attorney leaned in, whispering. Brennan cleared his throat. We were reviewing our consulting relationships. You told me relationships matter in this business. You sent a letter suggesting contract renewal was in jeopardy. That's retaliation, Mr. Brennan. Senator Morrison's expression hardened. Mr. Brennan, did you threaten Dr. Winters's contracts in response to her complaint? I was simply yes or no. Brennan looked trapped. The timing may have been unfortunate. That's a yes. Morrison made a note. We'll be investigating that separately. Maya clicked to her final slide. Her father's photograph appeared. Marcus Winters in his baggage handler uniform. This is my father. He spent 30 years in aviation, enduring the same treatment I experienced. He told me to understand the system better than the people running it. So I did. I built a career on it. But understanding a broken system doesn't fix it if the people in power refuse to act. She looked at each senator in turn. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here for accountability, real reform, mandatory consequences for discriminatory screening, independent oversight, and protection for people who speak up instead of retaliation. Her voice softened but lost none of its strength. Because my father couldn't fight back, but I can. And I'm fighting for everyone who comes after me. The hearing room sat in absolute silence. Then Senator Morrison spoke. Dr. Winters, thank you for your testimony. This committee will be issuing subpoenas for all relevant TSA documentation. Mr. Brennan, your presence will be required at follow-up hearings. Brennan went pale. As the hearing adjourned, Maya gathered her materials. Journalists swarmed. Supporters approached. But she just wanted air. Outside, her phone exploded with messages. Her attorney, you did it. They're launching a full investigation. Her assistant. 3 new clients just reached out. They saw the testimony, and one message from an unknown number. I'm the TSA agent who messaged you before. After watching you testify, I'm ready to go on record. Let's fix this system together. Maya leaned against the building, breathing in the cool Washington air. She'd risked everything. Her contracts, her firm, her carefully built credibility. But looking at the messages pouring in, from travelers who'd been through the same thing, from agents who wanted to help reform, from allies ready to fight alongside her, she knew it was worth it. Her father would have been proud. 3 months later, Maya stood in her office watching the sunset. The city looked different somehow. Or maybe she was just seeing it differently. Her desk held a stack of new contracts, not TSA renewals, but something better. 4 major airlines had hired her firm to redesign their entire security screening protocols. 2 airport authorities wanted comprehensive civil rights audits. A coalition of civil rights organizations had asked her to lead a national initiative on travel equity. The TSA contracts were gone. Brennan had made good on his threat before his own resignation under pressure. But Maya's firm was thriving in ways she'd never imagined. On her wall hung a framed news article. Congressional Committee mandates TSA reform after viral incident. The legislation included mandatory implicit bias training, independent oversight of screening complaints, and whistleblower protections for employees who reported discrimination. Agent Derrick had been terminated. Agent Collins was reassigned and required to complete extensive retraining. Checkpoint B7 had new leadership and had become a pilot program for the reformed protocols. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was movement. Real measurable change. Maya's assistant knocked. There's someone here to see you. A young black woman entered, maybe 25, nervous energy and determination in equal measure. Dr. Winters? I'm Jasmine. I'm starting my PhD in systems engineering next fall. I want to work in aviation security reform. After I saw your testimony, I knew this was my calling. Maya smiled. What made you interested in this field? My mom is a flight attendant. She's been dealing with discrimination at work for 20 years. She never thought things could change. Then she watched you stand up to Congress. She cried. She told me, that woman just proved we don't have to accept the way things are. Something in Maya's chest tightened. This was why she'd risked everything. Not for viral moments or headlines, but for the Jasmines of the world who needed to see someone fight back and win. We're always looking for bright minds, Maya said. When you finish your PhD, come talk to me about a position. After Jasmine left, Maya sat alone in her office. She pulled out her father's photograph, now displayed prominently on her desk. I did it, Dad, she whispered. I changed the system. At least a little. She thought about all the travelers who would move through checkpoint B7 next week, next month, next year. They'd never know that a woman who looked like them had fought to make their journey more dignified. That was okay. Change didn't need an audience. It just needed to happen. Maya's phone buzzed. An email from Senator Morrison. The Transportation Security Administration Equity Act passed committee. Full Senate vote next month. Thank you for your courage. Maya leaned back in her chair, watching night fall over the city. Somewhere out there, airports were closing for the evening. Travelers were heading home. And Checkpoint B7 was operating under new protocols, new leadership, new accountability. Her father's words echoed one last time. Baby girl. Dignity is what you keep when they try to take everything else. But Maya had learned something deeper. Dignity wasn't just what you kept. It was what you fought to preserve for everyone who came after you. And sometimes that fight cost everything, but it was worth it every single time. 6 months after the hearing, Maya returned to the same airport, same terminal, same checkpoint B7. She moved through the security line with her usual efficiency, placing items in bins. The TSA agent smiled professionally, checked her ID, and waved her through the metal detector. No additional screening. No questions about her laptop or briefcase. No doubt about her credentials. Just routine, respectful security procedure, the way it should have always been. As Maya collected her belongings, she noticed the new poster on the checkpoint wall. Updated protocols, clear accountability measures, a hotline number for reporting discrimination displayed prominently. At the bottom, new text, dignity and security go hand in hand. The agent caught her looking. New policies came down from Washington. Whole system got overhauled. He paused. Some of us remember why. Maya nodded once, then walked toward her gate. She thought about the cost of that overhaul. The viral video that exposed her worst moment. The congressional testimony that risked her career. The contracts lost and the credibility questioned. The sleepless nights wondering if fighting back would destroy everything she'd built. But she also thought about Jasmine, the graduate student inspired to join the fight. About the 47 travelers who'd shared their stories. About the TSA agent who went on record to help reform the system. About everyone who'd passed through Checkpoint B7 and never experienced what she experienced. Change didn't come from staying quiet. It came from speaking up even when the cost was steep. From refusing to let systems grind you down. From believing that dignity, yours and everyone else's, was worth fighting for. Her father had taught her to understand the system better than the people running it. But Maya had learned the harder lesson. Understanding wasn't enough. Sometimes you had to risk everything to make people see what they've been ignoring. As her plane lifted into the sky, Maya looked down at the airport sprawling below. Thousands of travelers moving through checkpoints, most of them unaware that one woman's fight had changed how those checkpoints operated. That was the nature of systemic change. It was invisible until the moment it wasn't. It was impossible until someone made it inevitable. Maya closed her eyes, her father's voice echoing one final time. Dignity is what you keep. Yes, she thought. But more importantly, dignity is what you give. To yourself by refusing to be diminished. To others by fighting battles they can't fight alone. To the future by making sure the next generation inherits something better than you found. That was the real victory. Not the headlines or the legislation or the contracts, but the quiet knowledge that somewhere right now, a black traveler was moving through Checkpoint B7 with their head held high, treated with the respect they deserved, because one woman decided that enough was enough, and in deciding changed everything.